Okay, men, listen up. If you want a happier wife, rev up the vacuum, pull out the duster, and push that mop across the kitchen floor, because the latest research shows that men who do housework are not only happier in their marriages, but they have better overall health.
Wives across America are applauding that news. No shock there, but is it too good to be true? Studio 5 marriage and family therapist Dr. Liz Hale is here to weigh in on this.
Now, I can cast my vote right off the top.
What do you think?
Yeah, high five there. But does it really make that much of a difference?
You know, I turn to the better marital researchers of myself, like Dr. John Gottman, and here's what he has to say. According to his research, men who do housework actually have happier marriages, and they have lower heart rates, and they have a better health overall. And that's even lasted for about 4 years post-study. So it is impressive. I don't know, maybe they're working up a sweat doing all that housework, or they're working up a sweat in a different kind of way, you know what I mean, because they have a happy spouse. But whatever it is, it seems like when you resolve that household conflict, it reduces conflict overall and reduces stress for both parties.
Okay, now I can understand exactly what you said if you're helping out around the house. I'm really surprised about the better health as well. Yeah. Walk us through what benefits happen from this when a husband's doing this.
Well, I think of another study like the University of Kentucky. They interviewed, I think, about 600 wives alone, and they really focused on the women. But they asked the men one question, that was, do you see household duties as equitable in your marriage? And for those who said yes to actually, the couple who said yes, he said yes, she said yes, that was the most compelling. Wives actually report that they are less interested in leaving the marriage, having extramarital affairs, and they report again fewer considerations of separation and divorce, and greater report of overall marital happiness. So that was actually, I think, very profound.
So you're telling me that I should, instead of bringing home roses and chocolate, should just get out the vacuum or get the Brillo pads out, right?
Why don't you? Have you tried that yet?
I vacuumed last night, as a matter of fact.
Oh. Good. Okay, Darren's ahead of the research, and you also met a woman 20 years ago who was ahead of that research as well, right? With the household division of responsibilities.
No, she actually wrote a book. I almost divorced my husband, but I went on strike instead. I mean, this really is an amazing couple. She had no choice but to do something drastic. Gerald is a good guy, her husband. He just didn't get it. He heard her complaints, but, you know, he just wasn't thinking because he was raised a certain way. But she finally realized, you know what? He's very into negotiations and contracts with his union employees at the copper mine. So that's what she set out to do. She wrote her own contract. And here is their story. Take a look.
I was ill. I was working full time. I had 3 kids. I had a husband who was the most wonderful, loving, handsome person in the world, and he was the biggest male chauvinist that you ever saw. I tried so many things, just one thing after the other, to try to get him to do something, and I became a whiner and a not very attractive person, because all I did was just complain and whine and feel sorry for myself and everything. And then I thought, hey, this has got to end. I wrote up this contract.
A labor contract was something she knew her husband Gerald would understand. The agreement was her way of more evenly dividing up the endless household responsibilities.
I actually wrote part of it on toilet paper and hid it someplace, and every time I get an idea, I'd put it someplace else, and I'd hide it around the house, and I'd stick it under the couch.
One day, when Sherri's 2 young sons returned from the grocery store with all the wrong items, Sherri's husband Gerald suggested that she should go to the store herself next time instead of having the children do her work. Well, she finally broke her silence.
Not only am I not going to the store to get anything, but as of this very second, I am on strike.
Sherri directed Gerald to the contract tucked away in a file cabinet. Without any discussion, Gerald went to work and did all the cooking, cleaning, and caring for the family.
He just wanted to show me that he could do it better than I did. He did, too. I'd go to work, and I'd come home, and the minute I get home, I'd just sit down and not do anything. Made the kids help him, and they were there to help him because they felt so sorry for him. But they didn't know what to do. They were just thinking their dad was, I mean, you can't do this to my dad. And I even tell the kids, when you have a problem, don't call me, call your dad. I'm not the mother either. I am on strike.
It only took a difficult 1.5 weeks before Gerald went to Sherri to sign the contract equally dividing the load.
I said, I bet you're exhausted. And he said, I am exhausted, but you have been doing it all along. He said, I can't believe that you've been doing it all along. To this day, I don't ever do anything for him that he doesn't do for me.
Wow. good for her. And interesting to know, you say that the kids, how they responded with her mom, they were kind of angry. Is that right?
They were ticked. Yes, they would. I had a chance to visit with Nicole. She was 10 at the time of this. And she said to me something very interesting. You know, my father used to just be the man who would come home in a suit carrying a briefcase. But after the strike, he actually became very involved. We would call on him as much as we would call on mom. So he became dad. So really all of these relationships changed. And Sherri didn't do this to make a feminist stance. She did it because her family and her marriage were really worth it. It's just that sometimes we had these old traditions. You know, even my own parents had those. And I asked my dad recently when I saw him this weekend, I said, I don't even remember you going into the kitchen, let alone washing a dish, you know? And it's not really just about cleaning the commode. I mean, if it were, I'd be passing out those toilet cleaners like crazy in my practice. It really is making a woman feel that she is not alone, that she's got support and the comfort of that relationship, that you're in this together.
Now, do you say that she actually was partially responsible? I'm not trying to push the blame on the woman here.
Yes, you were.
Okay, so I am. Was she sort of partly responsible in encouraging and fostering the behavior early on?
Well, I think we're all responsible for a little bit of that maternal gatekeeping. You know, Sherri admits that. You know, I used to refer to it as my home or my kids, or when you do something for me, it'd be as a favor for my kids in my home. And we do that sometimes as women, not even realizing what we're doing. We think we have kind of the handle on home care and child care, that we really do it better, bigger, better, best, right? And I think we have to be careful that we don't criticize our husbands and we don't redo the tasks that they do, or that we don't have these unbending rules and regulations.
My cute friend saw her daughter, who the husband had dressed last weekend, when he brought her to an event, and it was one of those things where she's like, I had to close my eyes, the clothes didn't match, there was not a bow in her hair, but I had to be okay with it. Is that kind of the idea?
That is a point for her, absolutely.
Just giving up a little bit of the reign and letting them do their thing.
Heavens, it's great.
Well, you mentioned Sherri doesn't really want to make necessarily a feministic stance with this, but she does have a special mission in sharing her story and writing her book.
Well, you know, for 45 years, she's been what we call a side cosmetologist. She has more experience than I do in visiting with people in the very intimate details of their lives, even across 3 generations. So again, her book is, you know, I almost divorced my husband, but I went on strike instead. And on our website, studio5.ksl.com, is a link to her site, nomoredivorces.com, and she was going to give just a tease of her book, but she gave a huge gift. So I think our viewers are definitely going to want that gift. It's called Sneak Peek, but it's laid out a lot in how she works it. She's very pro-marriage, she's very pro-family, and very pro-change. She has seen through her clients the devastation and destruction of the hell of divorce, that it is not the answer. You know, it certainly is worth saving a marriage. It's worth doing everything we can. If it means taking a stance like this, then so be it.
Yeah, whether you agree with her or not, I'm sure that just seeing her story makes people reflect a little differently. Say, yeah, what am I doing? Am I really pulling my fair share or whatnot? And you said, as you were doing the story, even the photographer, when he was shooting this, was affected a little bit, right?
Yes, he was. He was darling. You know, I turned to him and I said, you know, gosh, this is different for you. This is not your typical KSL news piece. What did you think? And he was very quiet. And he said, you know, I was divorced about 15 years ago. And I think, had I known now what I knew then, I had no idea all that my wife was doing. He goes, I grew up very spoiled. My mother catered to my every need, and I went in with that expectation to marriage. He goes, I think I could still be married today had I known differently. So I thought that was pretty telling.
Yeah, interesting testimonial.
But as always for our viewers, I'd love to hear from them at drliz@ksl.com. If you have any questions for me on this segment or my private practice, please shoot me an email.
And this excerpt you mentioned, again, available on Sherri's website?
Yes, well, nomoredivorces.com and also ours, Studio 5.
Okay, we'll link you there. Liz, great, interesting story. Thanks so much.
Thank you.